over the map when it comes to Iran. First, he said he wouldn't leave until the Strait of Hormuz is open. Yesterday, he said he doesn't care about the Strait of Hormuz. And this morning, he said unless Iran opens the Strait of Hormuz, he'd bomb them into the Stone Age. But all that flip-flopping is just part of his plan, according to an unnamed member of his administration who said, this isn't 3D chess, it's 12-dimensional. He contradicts himself regularly, so nobody knows what he's thinking. It's on purpose. Yes, it's cunning. No one knows what Donald Trump is thinking, not even Donald Trump, because, think about it. No, follow me down the rabbit hole here. No, gears within gears, because if he knew what he was thinking, he might let it slip. That's why he keeps his mind perfectly blank. Like nature's most cunning opponent, the goldfish.
I love Stephen Colbert. It's 7 minutes after the hour on the Stephanie Miller Show. I am Jody Hamilton sitting in. 323-410-0458 is the number. And look who's here.
Dad Doom.
Hello, Dr. Doom. How are you?
Well, howdy, Jody. I'm actually kind of fine. I was hemming and hawing when Chris asked me that earlier, but I thought about it in these last couple of minutes, and I have to say I'm fine. And how are you, Jody?
I am well. I saw your friend Joan Baez in Minneapolis. I wish I had been there, but I saw her perform. She was great. Did you go to any of the marches this weekend?
I didn't go, but she also went to Washington, D.C. and did a thing with Jane Fonda.
Yeah, I saw that too, yeah.
Which was incredible. You know, she kept telling us that, you know, her voice is not what it used to be. And her voice was pretty damn good in those performances that she gave during the protests. And, you know, it was like the good old days for her of being out front on issues that really matter to us. And it's really inspiring, actually.
I agree. And I went to, I wasn't feeling very well on Saturday, but I did go to protest by my house for about an hour and a half, and then I went home. It's always good to be around like-minded people, so I'm glad that she's there and Bruce was with her, and I mean, it was great. It was a great day.
You know, we went to the big protest in New York City, which was, you know, it's just kind of a river of human protesters marching down the street, and it is very inspiring. And the signs are great, you know, and it's quite a thing there, and you feel like you're part of something important, that you're able to express yourself as opposed to sitting in your living room and yelling at the TV set. You're actually out there with other people making your views known, and that's a great thing. It's still a great thing about America that we can do that.
Absolutely. So you tweeted out, President Trump has, for all intents and purposes, and you spelled intense correctly, unlike Boebert, already left NATO by undermining and insulting countries that have been allies, helping each other keep semblance for the world order for 80 years. Trust and respect have been replaced by ignorance, instability, and bluster in a far too violent war. I can't agree with you more. I can't believe that there is even a thought for us to leave NATO, even though we are pushing them away. I mean,
you know, and it may be, like I was saying, it may be too late at this point. You know, what is he possibly going to say that would reestablish trust in our most important allies, including Canada, by the way?
I know.
As well as France and England, Germany, the Scandinavian countries, etc. We basically put ourselves in a position where the next president, God willing, will not be a Trumpish person, will have a lot of work to do to try to reestablish the trust that is critical to keeping a world order in a very complicated world that's, by the way, armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons, and which we have no existing nuclear arms treaties out there because the last one expired in February. So the world is more dangerous, and our allies, our friends, and relationships have been undermined by you know, a lunatic in the White House. So that's where we are.
Yeah, I mean, Iran wrote quite the letter before his speech.
Yeah, the president, right?
Yeah, it was quite the letter that they wrote, saying they like the American people, which. Thank you. Please don't bomb us. You know, don't come over here and hurt us because we don't like him. Most of us don't, at least. It was. I mean, I'm not pro the Khamenei regime by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think they're terribly nice people, but that letter was amazing to send out, and they're kicking our butts when it comes to trolling Donald, by the way. They're very good at that. I just wish that he had not done this. And the fact that 35 other countries are trying to figure out a way to diplomatically deal with Iran in the Strait is good, I think, but it's not going to help us. And Donald's just helping Putin and China at this point, as far as I'm concerned.
It's unbelievable that not only are we declared mortal enemies of Russia, and Russia has been decimating an ally and friend of ours in Ukraine, but now everyone knows now that Iran is getting intelligence information from this same guy and Putin. And look, we're in such really a confusing time, and I think I thought the letter was also amazing. I read the whole thing yesterday. But they're still an awful, awful country. They've been massacring their own citizens,
Absolutely.
and we shouldn't. Our revulsion for Donald Trump should not make us suddenly think that these are the good guys.
No, not
by
at
any
all.
stretch of the imagination. So it's very complicated. All I know is Donald Trump started something that is going to be very difficult to extricate ourselves from. This whole thing has also disrupted our allies and our relationships in the Middle East. Everything is upside down now. Everything is in danger. And God forbid he'll send American troops into Iran, which I'm still worried about that he might. And that would be a killing field for young Americans who are dedicated to this country, but will have to follow orders and go into a situation that would be horrendous for them. Hopefully that won't happen.
Well, we've been talking about this all week, the fact that there's a record number of service members trying to figure out how to become conscientious objectors. And this is an all-volunteer service. It's not like they've been drafted where you had a higher number of people during the
Correct.
Vietnam War saying, I don't want to do this, and I never joined. But these are volunteer people. So the fact that they're saying, no, this is a bad idea, and these are grunts. These are your boots-on-the-ground kids saying, I don't want to do this. And their parents are saying, I don't want to do this. And they're trying to figure this out, which tells me that I'm not going to say mutiny, but it tells me that there's a problem in our armed services.
There's resistance.
Right now. Yeah,
There's serious resistance, and I'm telling you, you're talking about the this actual infantry, the actual soldiers, the grunts.
and Marines,
But if you could get a honest survey from officers, including high-ranking officers, I would guarantee you that a vast majority of those would think, what the hell are we doing here? They will follow orders unless they're overtly illegal. But the fact is, I can't imagine a normal military leader following this Negseth idiocy and agreeing that this is in any way a good idea. Well, I mean, we'll see what happens here.
Well, I mean, and Hegseth not promoting 2 black male officers and 2 female officers because of who they are. And the reporting is that Donald doesn't want to stand next to a black officer. Like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, it's mind-boggling to me.
It's totally mind-boggling. And but I don't think I would call it surprising.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. And this is what the problem is. We've gotten used to, absolute idiocy and ignorance coming, and racism coming, and misogyny, all of it coming out of the mouth of the leader of the free world, who happens to be our president, and something that this is going to be a long, long recovery in every sector of society, and we'll see what happens. But I'm telling you, Jody, the November 3rd this year, the midterms are going to tell a tale here, and we're going to figure out. We'll know then whether we're actually doomed as a country, or we have a shot at recovering some of what we're supposed to be standing for.
Did you listen at all to the birthright citizenship arguments yesterday? Did you listen to any of that?
At the Supreme Court?
Yeah.
Just snippets. Did you listen?
Well, there was guffawing at one point.
Yeah, there was laughing.
There was laughter at one point. And listening to poor John Sauer's voice, I just want to give him, something to coat his throat.
Yeah.
You know, and he was just out of his league completely. But for Donald,
And he's the Solicitor General.
yes,
So there's no reason for him to be out of his league.
no, there isn't. He should be smarter than that.
Yeah.
But apparently, he's audience of one. And we just found out that when Donald left yesterday, that's punishable by being arrested if you leave the Supreme Court, a hearing at the Supreme Court early.
What? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The woman, Marie from Atlanta, who calls in, she's a lawyer, and she actually can argue in front of the Supreme Court. She's allowed to do that. She's like, yeah, if you leave without good reason, you can get arrested.
Jody, I think you should send Chris to make a citizen arrest.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I think I would get arrested before Trump would.
I authorize you to arrest Donald J. Trump.
You could do it like a la Gummer. Citizens arrest.
No,
Citizens arrest.
Yeah, I would be thrown in jail so fast if I even tried to arrest the president.
I know the bailiff probably would have been tackled by the Secret Service had he tried.
I'm gonna be arrested for even suggesting it. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean, and with all the help that you do in Ukraine, how is things going down there and with the Children's Action Network and everything? How are things going?
The Ukraine Children's Action Project, which is, by the way, UCAP.help, H-E-L-P. It's doing great. The problem is that the Russians need to be expelled from that country, and I've written a couple of things regarding what it will take to get some settlement of the fighting, and I strongly object to giving up any territory to Russia in return for security. We cannot reward an authoritarian occupier with land that is illegal for him to try to take. But the children have really been suffering through this. A lot, really a lot, and it's really sad. On the other hand, the kids are extremely resilient. They've gone through hell this winter. And I spoke to many moms with children in Kyiv over the winter, and there's no heat, there's no electricity for long portions of the day, and still the vast majority of Ukrainians want to keep fighting till the Russians are out of there. And by the way, Ukraine has now developed the most sophisticated, advanced technical military operations capabilities in the world.
Good.
There's a huge contingent of drone experts from Ukraine that has gone with Zelensky down to the Middle East to talk to our allies there to help them to protect them from Iranian missiles and drones. So, and Zelensky's doing his thing, and he's defending his country, and it's quite amazing. But the children really need our help, and we're not stopping.
Good. I'm very glad to hear that you're not stopping, and I'm glad to hear that they're resilient. And can Zelensky be our president? Can we just elect him?
He has his hands full in Ukraine.
Yeah, when he's done with that, can we elect him?
Jody, I'm sorry, you're now going to be arrested also. I'm sorry. You're going to be in the clink with Chris and I. I don't care.
Well, it would be fun.
You know what I would love? When it's time for Zelensky to step down, and because his job is done or whatever, I would like for him to move here and be a comedian again.
Yeah.
Join the cast of Saturday Night Live.
There you go. There you go.
That would be amazing.
It would. That would be fantastic.
Would be beyond historic. That would be epical. And I'm telling you, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah.
And the transformation he made from his previous life
absolutely
to becoming one of the best and most important leaders in modern times.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's really quite extraordinary. It tells you a lot about what human beings are capable of.
Absolutely.
And stepping up in a crisis and doing what has to be done.
Absolutely.
As opposed to Trump, who's actually stepped down in a crisis and become a monster. So there you go.
Exactly. Well, thank you, Dr. Doom. Have a wonderful weekend. Tell John Baez we say hi.
Yes.
I will.
And you'll have Stephanie next week, okay?
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks, Doc.
Bye-bye.
In 1776, we defied a corrupt king, and the America we love was born from that defiance. Now it's time to do it again. America is in crisis, but patriots across the country are standing up to save her for ourselves and our posterity. Show your support with the No King's Lapel pin. a 1-inch by 1-inch standard American flag lapel pin embedded with our No King symbol. So much better than that tacky red hat. It's a subtle but powerful way to say you've had enough of wannabe dictators and you're doing something about it. Every day, keep our movement going by wearing this pin that clearly says what freedom-loving Americans are thinking. There are no kings in America, and there never will be. Go to store.politicalvoicesnetwork.com. That's store.politicalvoicesnetwork.com. Get your No Kings lapel pin now.
At least Congress had voted on it. At least the American people had weighed in. At least the generals had come before Congress and put forward a plan. None of that exists today. And so I think this could get a lot worse. We already saw oil futures spike, go much higher just during the course of his speech.
Yeah.
But that's just the price of oil. When more Americans start coming home in body bags, this is going to not only just get immeasurably worse for us, for our nation, for our troops, but it's going to be harder for the president to get himself out.
Yes, he will. That was Representative Seth Moulton from Democrat from Massachusetts, talking about the stupidity of this stupid war. I mean, there were reasons other presidents didn't go in and do this.
The Dow is down 362 points right now.
Oh, wow. Analysts are warning of $200 barrels of oil if the war lasts until June. And at this rate, we don't know. And if it right as of this morning, it was $110 a barrel.
And at that point, it's going to affect people like me who I don't drive, so I don't purchase gas. But transportation in general is going to be really, and also getting stuff delivered. Already, the post office is adding an 8% surcharge to every delivery. For gas prices.
I mean, at least FedEx has some electric trucks going around, but
Amazon does too. But
still, I mean, they're going to do that anyway.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, right now. By my house, if you don't get a car wash, it's $7 and some change to get,
Yeah, I was in the Valley yesterday, and the cheapest I saw was $5.70.
That sounds about right.
But it was insane. The line I was like,
because that's the cheapest gas.
Yeah, I made a mental note. I was like, I'm going to come back here after the errand I'm running, and I'm going to get gas here. I drive back. It was ridiculous. I was in line for a good 5 minutes before I was like, well, whatever.
Oh, I remember lines in the 70s.
In the 70s.
I remember those.
It was so bad.
You had even and odd days. Do you know what that is?
No.
Where if your license plate ended with an even number, you could only buy on days that were even.
Even, and then if it was an odd, but the thing with odds were if it ended in an odd number or you had a personalized license plate, those were odd days.
Yeah. And you could only buy on December 3rd, 5th.
Yeah.
7th.
Right, those days. And so most people, certainly in Los Angeles, had a lot of personalized license plates. So the odd days were always the
longer.
worst lines.
My license plate ends in an odd number. So
let's hope it doesn't. But I remember that vividly waiting as a kid to get gas, and being in a car. I think only one car that was at our household was an even.
And you'll see gas station, no gas.
No gas signs. I mean, it was a big deal. It really, really was.
And Licorice Pizza, there's a whole thing.
There's a whole thing about it.
That's right.
Yeah, there's a whole. Yes, because Paul also remembers.
Yes. Paul is Gen X.
He is a Gen Xer like the rest of us, besides the little baby Bella. Bill in New Jersey, you remember the gas lines, right? Bill.
Hello?
Bill, put the phone down.
Bill? Oh, bye, Bill. He was going to talk about the closing of the Suez Canal, which was part of the problem then.
That's right.
I mean, the fact that everybody around Donald knew that this was going to happen, what Iran was going to do. And Iran knew that too. It's like, dude, seriously?
Yeah.
I think something just happened because the Dow is now up 176.
What did Donald say?
I have no idea. I just have my stock thing open here.
Oh, Donald just said something.
I'm getting whiplash.
Well, he's manipulating the markets for people that know him.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes. He's absolutely doing that. And Martha Stewart would like a word. You know, I mean, come on. I love this Trump voter, though. You gave me this story. It's hilarious. Joseph Moncrief, I believe, told MS Now that the economy is all effed up. And he issued a plea to Donald for relief at the gas pumps. because the average is a little over $4. I think it's 4.02 right now, a gallon average in the nation.
That's crazy. That is so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, when I went to Texas a couple of years ago and everybody's complaining about gas, and I was like, oh, it's so nice here because it's only like $2.50, and if I didn't bring the rental car back, it was only going to be $3.50. I'm like, I don't care. Fill it with $3.50. I can afford that, But yeah, this guy, he says, right now I'm paying this poor man, he's paying $2,600 more for his rent, and that doesn't include his bills. So that's $2,600 just to have a roof over his head.
Oh my God.
And he said, and I'm going to say all of these words, like, this is really, 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 really hard. He's very upset.
It is really, 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 really hard.
It is. I don't think he meant what they quote him saying. He said, my wife's about to be pregnant. She's due in about next week. So she's not about to be pregnant. She's about to give birth.
Yes.
Right.
And so it's very difficult for him. So the journalist asked him, if you could pick one word to describe the state of the economy right now, what would it be? And he goes, all effed up, all effed up. It's because it's all over the place. I would say we need help with it because we're citizens and we have to pay these prices. It's not easy. It's not easy at all. And he said, I don't think we should have anything to do with Iran. And that ain't inside our country. I think it's completely wrong when we go to other countries and go to war over there. They're not coming over here. That's BS. So he's upset.
Yeah.
And I'm glad to see that more and more of his voters are getting more and more angry with what's going on. And again, if this continues, which again, I don't think there's any reason to think it won't, because Donald, yes, he's bored right now. We can tell that.
Yeah.
And now he wants to go into Cuba, again with no plan.
Yeah.
And they've offered him, hey, let's work something out, buddy, because he allowed Russia now to sell them oil because, again, helping Putin.
Yeah.
Because the sanctions are off of Russia. The sanctions are off of Iran. They can sell oil again. Like, dude, isn't that a bad idea when we're fighting Iran? We shouldn't be, getting them more money. And he complained, remember, about Obama giving them $1.3 billion, which was their own money. Yeah. It was just unfreezing it. But he's given them because he's allowing them to sell oil and lifted the U.S. sanctions at least off. Because they can sell us oil, basically, is what he's saying. 10 to 15 times more money has been given to them because of Donald versus their own money going back to them because of Obama and the original deal that should still be in place. And Donald tore it up because he's a big duty.
It's funny. You asked Carl earlier if you think the draft is going to get reinstated, and you were talking to Dr. Doom about
children,
about people getting deployed, and it made me remember last night when I was on TikTok. I saw a video of this woman who is a stripper at a strip club next to or near a bunch of bases. She didn't say where, obviously, but somewhere in the U.S. and she said that in the past couple of weeks, the amount of service members, the amount of young men who are in the military are going to more clubs, and business has been up with them, and they seem very depressed and very scared. And they are constantly talking to these girls.
Of course.
Right.
Like, we don't know. It could be next week. It could be the week after. But they're being briefed, and they're being told to get ready for potentially having to go. And that's crazy to me. The fact that we're hearing that from, girls online,
right.
That they're doing better journalism about this, about, the state of I couldn't even imagine being told in high school, this is a good option for you. You can enlist and it'll be fine. And, college will be paid for. And then this happens. It's ridiculous in 2026.
Yep.
Well, when the Gulf War started and under George H.W. Bush, a friend of mine joined the Marines out of high school. And so we were, I think he was 19 or 20 when it started, maybe 21. And he was deployed out of Camp Pendleton. I mean, they're first to go.
Right.
And I was terrified for him. I was so glad that he came home safely, and that it was a short war. But I can't even fathom these, because I've been reading parents saying, I don't want my kid going.
Oh my gosh, I can't even. That is so devastating.
Yeah.
The thought of that is terrible.
I mean, I still feel that it's wrong that girls don't have to register for the draft.
Technically, I think they do now.
Oh, good.
Or that's a rule that's getting instated.
It should.
I mean, all my roommates are
they're boys.
They all had to. I didn't have to.
Right.
I think I was at the cutoff before,
Okay.
but now they're starting to. That's becoming.
Well, that's good.
I don't know what the laws are. I'll look that up because
Please.
I think they're getting there.
Well, I think I've always thought it was sexist. To not force. If you have to force the boys, you should force the girls.
Mm-hmm.
Women in Israel have to go to war.
Yeah, they do.
They do. They're very good fighters. So there's no reason not to make us do it too. I always thought it was unfair.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, completely unfair.
Well, it's also crazy because I was looking into the draft because I'm worried. I have a partner who was well within the age range.
Absolutely.
All of my closest friends are within the age range, and they had to put their names in. And they start with 20-year-olds. That is absurd. That's absurd. That's so crazy to me.
Okay, current U.S. law requires nearly all male citizens and male immigrants, documented or undocumented, aged 18 to 25, to register with Selective Service. Women are not required to register. Other exemptions include men on active duty in the armed forces, those in service academies, and some non-citizens in the U.S. on valid non-immigrant visas.
Okay, God. It's okay. I thought but
I think people like me are trying to fight for that.
Yes,
because I think it's right.
There were talks of trying to include women in this within the coming years.
The problem I have with that is undocumented immigrants have to, yet we don't give them rights.
Yeah.
But they have to, so you find out that they're undocumented, technically.
Yeah, I have a friend who moved here from the Philippines when he was a kid, so he officially wasn't a citizen. He joined the Army, and that was a fast track to citizenship. So now he's a U.S. citizen.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, under Donald, you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know anymore.
Yeah.
They're trying to overturn naturalization at this point. No, that bothers me that undocumented immigrant boys have to
are required to register with Selective
to
Service.
serve our country when they're not given rights and could be deported at any minute. That doesn't seem right to me.
Well, there's some other outdated rules too. Like you can't get I feel I don't know. I could be very wrong on this, so take it with a grain of salt. But my roommate told me that if you have hand tattoos or specific tattoo placement, you can't.
Well, Hegseth was in the Army and he had a a swastika.
Of course, but like for some, I don't know, something about hand tattoos or I don't know, maybe.
It's becoming like working at Disneyland. They're overlooking a lot of that now.
Some gray areas, and then like if you have anxiety or depression, you can't get drafted. Yeah. So
I mean, there are things that when you're drafted, you go through certain things, and then
evaluations.
You're definitely evaluated. But
right.
And then you guys heard that ICE is going down to a South Carolina Marine base where they're graduating, because a lot of the people that are graduating have parents that might be undocumented.
Oh my God.
So they're requiring real IDs, passports, or a birth certificate to just get onto the base to see their family graduate.
Yeah.
And so and it's like, really? You're sending ICE to something where these people's children are helping our country, and you want to take their parents away potentially, or their sisters, or whomever, their aunts and uncles, their grandparents, whatever. I mean, that is so disgusting to me. Yeah. I mean, it's just
It's also crazy that we're talking about what happens when you're drafted.
We shouldn't have to
because
anymore.
the possibility is there again.
Exactly.
They keep talking about it, and the constant conversation of we're not ruling it out. It's still on the table.
Yeah.
Why would you? The only purpose of saying that is to cause hysteria and mass panic and have people distracted talking about that aspect instead of a lot of the other,
like
factual
Epstein.
Exactly.
Like the
That's
Trumpstein files.
Right.
The whole point.
The last time we had a draft in this country, it was a major reason why people were against the Vietnam War.
Absolutely.
And so, smart people in charge know this and will do a draft as a last resort. I'm not so sure the people we have in office right now are that smart.
No.
I agree. And it's up to Congress. It's not up to the guy in the building that he's destroyed. It's up to Congress to do that. So we'll see if Mike Johnson and Thune are all for it. I mean, one of the guys in the House just said, "We won the Vietnam War."
Oh, yeah.
Spoiler alert, we did
yesterday.
not. We did not win the Vietnam War. Not even close.
No.
Nope. Okay, so
And they said we won the Vietnam War in 1968.
in 1968, we did
Yeah.
not. It didn't end until 75.
Right.
So
Something's
we
not
lost.
right here.
I wouldn't have had to do drop drills until 1975 in Los Angeles had that war been over. Okay. Tracy in Arizona. Hi.
Tracy Mesa.
Well, yes, I was just looking for a dumb reason to call in while Jody's hosting this week.
Thank you.
And before we get to that, I was going to say, when I turned 18, I had to register for selective service.
Yeah.
Yep, me too.
There was no draft going on, but a couple years later, that Falkland Island thing kicked in.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I thought, that's when I was out at music school out there in Hollywood, and I was like, oh, great, I'm going to get drafted. But anyway, the reason I called in was amongst all the other stuff yesterday, I heard this story that Trump punched his high school music teacher and gave him a black eye because he thought he didn't know anything about music.
Oh?
Wow.
Wow.
All right.
Well, he doesn't because of his
Yeah.
thoughts on Bruce Springsteen, so that just proved his teacher's point.
Well, I know. Well, I've told you before. I mean, he likes Kid Rock and the Village People and Lee Greenwood. So that tells you what you need to know.
Exactly.
So anyway, glad everything went great, Bella, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks.
All right, have a good one, Tracy. Bye.
Thanks, Tracy. Oh, let's update people on the tattoo stuff that we found
Yeah.
out.
Oh yeah. Okay. So thank you, Tara Devlin for texting me this. But apparently, any tattoo that would be visible when you're wearing the standard short sleeve warm weather uniform is not allowed.
Okay.
But then Lonnie found out that it's dependent on branch.
Yeah, some branches are more strict than others.
Yes.
I would imagine.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're going to West Point, you probably shouldn't do that.
Probably,
you
it's a bit
know,
different,
things
yeah.
like that. But yeah,
If you enlist in the Army, I think they're the least strict.
and I would
more
imagine like
lenient.
the
Yeah.
Coast Guard probably doesn't care as much, and you know,
Yeah.
you
yeah.
know, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
don't
don't
know.
I don't have any. I don't have any tattoos or piercings, so.
Yeah. Well.
La 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 la. Michael in North Carolina. Hi.
Hey, Jody.
Hey.
Bella, welcome back.
Thank you.
I'm sorry you're ill, but it's all uphill from here. Downhill from here.
Right.
I wanted to talk about Minnesota. I'm writing some contribution checks for candidates all across the country because I got a bigger than expected refund from the IRS.
Nice.
Okay, awesome.
So I'm trying to
Congratulations.
spread the wealth.
Uh-huh.
So anyways, it's because I paid too much in estimated quarterly tax.
Uh-huh.
It's no big deal. Anyway, I was thinking about the contributing to Graham Plattner, but I've already given to Janet Mills, so I don't know if I should do that or not.
You can do both. If you
Anyway,
believe in both,
talking about-
if you believe in both, then yeah, you can contribute to
Yeah,
both.
do both. Why
Well,
not?
one of them has to win. It's absolutely
True.
imperative.
Right.
So whoever's got the best chance of winning is who I should give my money to. But I was thinking about Minnesota because I'm writing a check for Angie Craig. Mm-hmm. Minnesota is where so much is happening this year in the election. Amy Klobuchar is going to be governor.
Yes, she
which
is,
means
hopefully.
she gets to appoint her successor in the Senate. Why not Al Franken?
Ha, I love that.
Angie Craig will be elected to the other Senate seat for the retiring.
All right, Michael,
Tina
I'm so
Smith.
sorry. We're hitting the top of the hour. You are correct. And donate to anybody you feel that will win it as a Democrat. Okay, thank you. We'll be right back on the Stephanie Miller Show.
Well, if you are old enough to notice clothing styles from your past coming back into fashion, hello, brooches and jackets with shoulder pads. Well, it's time to grab a bottle of my favorite skincare product, Vibrian Super C Serum. Super C Serum hydrates, smooths, tones, improves the overall look of your skin, made with the highest quality vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, vitamin B5, and E. Vibrian Super C Serum has been better to me than all of the expensive products I've tried. It's a terrific multitasker. My little bottle bottle of Super C Serum able to replace neck cream, eye cream, night cream, dark spot cream. See for yourself. If you don't find Super C Serum better than your current regimen, they will give you a refund within the first year. Go to Vibriance.com/Stephanie. Save up to 37% off and get free shipping. That's VIBRIANCE, Vibriance.com/Stephanie.
The first inaugural edition of Outside the Box Live on Facebook Live as well. So if you guys find yourself getting out of your vehicles, listening on the app, there's even yet another way for you to be checking out this show. I have a whole setup here off camera now. It's becoming more and more to set up. I actually was supposed to be on TikTok Live as well right now, but it turns out in the name of making sure that I am not exploited in any kind of way, I need to confirm my age. And it's offering me the option to do it with facial recognition. But longtime listeners of the show know it'll be a cold day in hell before I turn on the facial recognition on any of this stuff. So gonna have to figure out a way to handle that during the break here. Man, busy day yesterday, huh? We got a lot to jump into here and not a lot of time to do it. And what sucks is I was going to start the show off with a whole rambling thing about my movies podcast and checking out the film Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Fine flick, realistically not great, very redundant compared to the first one. It's going to be going live on the Off Topic with Ben and Balky page shortly after the show wraps up today, right at noon Thursday, if you're listening to this recorded later on in the day. So if you listen to this show, you like it, you're like, I want to listen to this guy complain about a movie he was really excited about, go check out Off Topic. That'll be up at noon. You can check it out on the app where you listen to the rest of my show, or it'll be on the Beyond News page on the WHBY website. So go ahead and give that a look right at noon today. We're starting exactly where you think we're going to start, but not necessarily from the perspective that you think we will. We're going to get into what Donald Trump had to say, but I want to provide it from the perspective of somebody who was watching the moon launch yesterday, a little bit confused, to be just perfectly frank with you guys, and allow me to explain why. And I'm disappointed that this is how my brain works. I don't know if this job has done this to me, if 10 years of Donald Trump has done it to me, if 15 years of being a millennial and being told that the economic strife that we are facing is in my head has gotten to me. I don't know what it is. But what I do know is this. What we achieved yesterday from a space flight perspective was very impressive. I am a bit confused by it. I'm a little confused why it's been like 54 years or whatever the exact number was since the last time that we've flown to the moon. I laughed. I was joking with my friends in my group chat back in Pittsburgh. They were like, "What do you think about it, Ben?" I said, "I'm too cynical. You don't want my answer." And as I mentioned, a friend of mine's uncle is John Glenn, so he has a very different perspective on what space flight actually looks like. But so, or how it works, what he thinks about it. He was very excited about it. And I said, I'm confused by this. I said, this would be like the equivalent of Nintendo showing up and saying, man, we're going to try and recreate Mario 64 from the ground up. I really hope that we can do it. And I'm sitting there like, yeah, man, you made Mario 64 in 1996. Like, you should be able to recreate it by now. The technology's better and you've already done it. Like, what are we talking about? We hope we can do it again. I realize there are innate risks with space travel. And I realize that there's plenty of things that can go wrong. And I'm very thankful that it looks as though, at least, roughly 18 hours in, everything seems to be going according to plan, which is obviously ideal. But when you learn that the whole reason we're doing this is based on the idea of building a defense base on the moon, investing $20 billion to build a defense base on the moon in the name of beating China to doing it first, when we have so many different issues facing us as a population, and we're always told that the money isn't there. How are we supposed to find the money to do X, Y, and Z? But it feels like on a whim, we can decide that we're going to start making regular trips to the moon with the intention of sometime in the 2030s being able to put people on the moon, have them live there, have them work there, have them watch over the country and the world there. That's supposed to provide us with a feeling of safety and security, but it kind of generates the other kind of feeling for me personally. Call me a conspiracy theorist, but I have not been given any reason to trust our Defense Department, not just in the Trump era, but in general. And moreover, There are so many issues that we regularly focus on here in the States, in Wisconsin, in America alone, that it makes me question where our priorities actually lie. And it's really not even up to interpretation. I want to play a clip for you guys of Donald Trump speaking. But this is not Donald Trump speaking during his planned speech yesterday. This is him speaking a couple hours beforehand after he got out of watching the Supreme Court try and strip us of the 14th Amendment. And keep in mind from yesterday's conversation, if you are in favor of the 14th Amendment being repealed or something negative happening to it, I just hope that there isn't a second amendment that ends up on that list. You know, can you guys think of a second amendment that might end up on that list if it turns out we're questioning if an amendment is relevant to today's era? Is there a second amendment that might actually end up on that list? I'll allow you guys to mull that over. Let me know if you can come up with an example. But here's a clip of Donald Trump speaking. If you guys haven't heard this yet, give this a listen. This is before he did his speech talking about what we can afford to do here in America.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state. We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. And we could lower our taxes a little bit to them to make up. But it's not possible for us to take care of daycare, Medicaid, Medicare, all these individual things. They can do it on a state basis. You can't do it on a federal. We have to take care of one thing: military protection.
Okay, so never mind the fact that we here in Wisconsin know exactly what leaving child care costs up to the state government looks like. I think we know better than a lot of states what that actually looks like. We did finally get a little bit of the drops in the bucket here aimed at us after about, my entire tenure of living here in Wisconsin, plus worth of effort to try and get something positive across the finish line here. But it still doesn't go nearly far enough to address an issue that so many people are facing. About half of people blow through their life savings after 2 years of a cancer diagnosis. Really wrap your head around that statistic. Every other industrialized nation does not suffer from bankruptcies as a result of health diagnoses. In America, 50% of cancer patients burn through the entire life savings. It's an average of $92,000 every 12 months, which, to all of my millennial and Gen Z brethren out there, how many of you guys have $184,000 saved up to be able to afford 2 years of cancer treatments? Fun fact there as well. America uniquely faces that problem. Donald Trump, for the first time possibly ever, really was pretty truthful in his statement. I hope I found the right point in the audio here, but let me play this part for you again.
We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take. We're fighting wars. We're fighting wars. We're fighting wars.
We're fighting wars. He's telling you what it is. We have a choice in how we're going to allocate our funds. We can play Fun Moon Man. We can play pointless war in Iran that nobody other than the diest of diehard MAGA is asking for, and everybody else is asking, why exactly are we doing this? And we'll get into the lack of clarity provided by the president last night as to why we're doing this still. I think we're still sitting here trying to figure out how we ended up in this position. But I think he made his feeling on the matter pretty clear. He has no interest in addressing this. Remind you, this is the president who said, we're going to address the affordability crisis on day one. Your health care, your Medicaid, your child care, your elder care, your college loans, your grocery bills, your utility bills, your everything is too expensive, but I alone can fix it. Sleepy Joe does not have the answer. I alone can fix it. What all of a sudden, 15 months in, it's, what do you expect the federal government to do about any of this kind of stuff? The fact is, there's plenty that he can do as the president of the United States. There's plenty that our government can do. There's plenty that we can do on the state level. It doesn't have to all be funneled into federal dollars, but then we should already be hearing the Wisconsin GOP rallying the troops to figure out how they're going to address these costs here for the people in Wisconsin, because all I ever see them trying to do is cut taxes for the wealthiest 11 families in the state. That little clip right there that I just played for you is kind of buried in a bunch of nonsense that was a little more scripted, a little more planned, with a little more production value, much like this program now has available on YouTube and Facebook. Plenty more planning. That's going to get its day in the sun, right? We're going to jump into some of the things that he had to say there that were objectively not true. And again, really, I don't think have put people's mind at ease about why we are in Iran to begin with. But that clip about not being interested in trying to address the cost, again, he is telling you point blank, he's not doing it.
Because the United States can't take care of daycare. That has to be up to a state.
Every other country with a smaller GDP than us has figured out how to do this. The reason we can't take care of this stuff is because for the last 45 years of American existence, the only thing we've done is continue cutting taxes for wealthy people while stripping the American population of social services, and then the privatized version of those services jack the prices up. How many of you guys that actually pay for childcare, what does that look like these days? We already know the statistics. It's obscene. This is burying the lead. This is the story. We're going to talk about the misrepresentation of the Iran nuclear deal. We're going to talk about the misrepresentation of America generating oil. We're going to talk about the misrepresentation about what the MAGA movement was supposed to stand for in general. And that all is a relevant conversation. But he is saying point blank that he has no answers for Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security. Remember when we were going to get a new health care plan in 2 weeks? What happened to that? What happened to those days when we were just about to get one of those? Why is it all of a sudden so complex and so expensive that we're not able to afford it? Is it because we have to funnel another $200 billion into our already $1 trillion Defense Department that cannot justify or pass an audit in the better part of a decade? The last 8 audits in a row they have been struggling to pass. Is that part of the reason why we can't do it? Is it because we have our wealthiest people paying the lowest tax rate that they have ever had to pay, at least in the last 100 years? Is it because we have watched the 4 major tech companies, Amazon, Meta, Google, all find their tax bills reduced by $96 billion just this year as a result of Donald Trump's billionaire kiss-ass bill? Are any of these the reason why we find ourselves in a position where we don't know how we're going to be able to federally fund childcare, elder care, and all these other programs that clearly are holding back entire generations of Americans? I do not accept that as an answer, and he should be embarrassed for coming out there to say it. And the most embarrassed people should be the people that voted for him under the pretext of him making life affordable, that inevitably are going to try and convince you on your Facebook messages later that he's trying the best he can. And realistically, the real reason they voted for him was to go bomb schools in Iran. We have 2.5 more years of this. As I stated yesterday, we had to get through Hoover to get to FDR. We had to get through Hoover to get to FDR. Keep telling yourself that. But he is putting the story out there in front of the speech. He has no intention. The Republican Party has no answers for the astronomical costs of so many different services that we are trying to find a way to afford. Now that we know they have no answers, let's push them out of the way and start talking about people that have answers. You can be mad about something trans. You can be mad that the Mexicans are getting on my Medicaid. If the Republican answer is white people also don't get Medicaid, I'm going to side with the Give Mexicans Medicaid party. I feel like that's just basic common sense at this point. I want to jump into Trump's actual speech. We'll do that on the other side of the break. We got a bunch of messages piling up. We'll do that first. Phil out in Oshkosh says, I see the space program and NASA as a waste of money that can be used on silly things for the people of this country, but that's not a good waste of money. Have a fabulous show. Thank you. And again, I don't like being anti-NASA. Like, there is the inquisitive part of me that used to exist. But with so many obvious problems facing society with no interest in trying to address them, it just stacks up on you year over year. And you're like, why are we doing this? Like, you're never going to convince me that this is for any reason other than surveillance. Like, they'll be like, oh, imagine what we're going to learn with all these different. They're not going up there to learn. They're going up there to surveil. We got to beat China up there, right? We got to make sure we've got the base on the moon and don't let anybody else have the base on the moon. It's it's the cynic in me now. It sucks. Trust me, it sucks. I want to be that lighthearted, plucky individual that used to used to get so excited about these kind of things. You know what I mean? Now here we are. Brian said, I just had to apologize to a British resident for the actions of our president. When did the residents of a country have to apologize for the actions of its country? Yeah, it's a strange time to be alive for sure. And Val says, I'm so disenchanted and saddened by the state of our democracy today. I truly hope we get some normal folks who understand the gravity of the status of our country and rise up against these elitists who are out of touch with most Americans. I mean, it's going to require, you know, what's funny, Val, is, I mean, I realize MAGA's in control of everything. Like, they have the final say in all of this stuff. You know how MSNBC was portraying the flight yesterday? Oh, wow. The first black man and the first woman are traveling around the moon this time. What an achievement in the name of diversity, which, don't get me wrong, yes, it is, and it should have happened long ago. But again, I don't care. Fix healthcare. We don't need to be doing this right now. As you guys know, I've expressed this before. In Finland, they had a homeless problem. And so what they did is had the government build a bunch of homes and then give those homes to homeless people, and 4 out of 5 people reintegrated into society. And they only had 20% of the problem they had a couple years earlier. Their government recognized they had a problem. They applied the taxes that they acquire, mostly by taxing the wealthiest residents of Finland, and then they addressed that problem, making the streets safer and making a happier environment for all people involved. It's why they rank so high on these happiness lists all the time. Whereas we fire all of our tax dollars up at the moon in the name of getting sharks with laser beams on their heads on the moon to defend us from Iran and their apparently completely diminished forces that are also a very big threat to us. I'll eventually get a grip on it, I'm sure. We've had somebody waiting online here for a little bit. Anybody else wants to chime in? 920-281-1150, 920-281-1150. Hello, you're on Outside the Box.
Yeah, good morning, Ben. It's Gary calling. Say, when you mentioned why did we go to the moon, I looked it up yesterday and I said, why did it take us 54 years to go back? And the number one reason was cost. And then it said, well, we had to pay off the Vietnam War. I also think that we went to the moon in '69. It kind of diverted our attention to all the people that were shot and the Vietnam War and so forth. So it was kind of a diversion. Like we like that type of thing. But I was thinking, what does the average guy get, or what did he get out of all of those programs? And the only 2 things I could think of was Tang, which was a good thing for sending to the troops in Vietnam during the 60s, that fake orange juice.
Yeah.
And then we got the Teflon pans, which, God forbid, people are still using that stuff and contaminate. You know, we could have cured all of the lead pipe problems with the drinking water and done all the other stuff. And maybe some of the social programs should have fell by the wayside too, that were funded during that period with the money. But you're talking billions of dollars. You know, there are people that are employed, not all at the big universities like UW-Madison and so forth, that work on these programs, but there's small colleges and schools that these professors are getting buku money to fund programs and do minor research under the NASA banner, and the money is spread all over the country in every congressional district that people are milking the system on that, and it's costing the taxpayers money. And in the end, what does the average guy get out of the program? If you could name more than 2 things, maybe a little faster computer, maybe instead of walking around with a Texas Instrument calculator, you got a handy dandy phone today. Maybe that came out of it. I don't know, but the only 2 things I remember were Teflon and the Tang juice.
It's funny, Gary, because you're not even alone. Hal in the text line said the same thing about Tang as well, which I am just learning now. But I appreciate the call and the insight as per usual there. And I'm right there with you. And I've said the same thing about the wars that we start. And I don't want to pretend that if the wars provided more material benefits for me, that I would be in favor of them. But I also know that there are no material benefits. I know that Apple will have access to cheaper lithium that they can use to then jack up their profit margins, but they're most certainly not going to bring the price down on the iPhone. They're just going to make larger profits. There's literally no reason for any of this. This is why people hate taxes so much, is because we fire it off to the moon instead of putting it into things that benefit us. Hello, you're on Outside the Box.
Morning, Ben.
Hey, Brian, what's
Brian
up?
Here.
Yeah, what's up, man?
Yeah, I called to apologize to all the listeners out there, my fellow countrymen and women. As you know, I voted third party along with a lot of other disenfranchised Democrats. And as a result, we got the embarrassing person that stood up there for 20 minutes yesterday and blathered about everything that has nothing to do with what is actually happening, going on right now, lied through his teeth, and then comes out and says that we can't do anything about daycare and Medicare and Social Security cuts, and we can't control corporations from raping us. And you know why? Because we have idiots that run this country, and we have idiots in politics that can't do anything about them. This guy is going to put us in a war that he doesn't even know how to get out of, and he's afraid to be a loser. And he's standing up there telling us how good it is, and I'm afraid to death. I don't know about anybody else, but that guy needs to be removed. The person we saw up there, I'll take Sleepy Joe any day. Give me Sleepy Joe back.
I'll tell you what, man, most recent polling data, even amongst Republicans, 30% believe it, but 53% of the American population admits right now that the economy was better under Sleepy Joe than it was under Trump. And something tells me give it 6 more months, because with him announcing that there's nothing that he can do about it, I don't know that it's going to get any better. Again, it's first of all, don't apologize for voting third party, because it is incumbent on the Democratic Party to earn your vote. The idea of being scared out of how bad the Republican Party is right now really isn't enough of a justification to turn around and vote democratically. But at the same time, I understand your frustration and consternation, because it does kind of feel like you're boxed in, because you know this is objectively trash, but the vision painted by the Democratic Party isn't particularly impressive either. And it's we're going to get out of this. We're going to find a way, whether it's third party or a candidate emerging that actually makes sense. But I get your frustration and your hesitancy to deal with things right now. What's that? Go ahead. Yeah.
The sad part about this, and everybody that's reading what's going on knows that we're not only screwing up our own country, the economy, and our future, but look at the EU. Look at everybody that's affected by this war and what we've done. And it's almost impossible to think of the chaos that's been caused by, I think, some very bad decisions. And now the person is trying to find a way to get out of it. And the only way to get out of it is to make it worse. And I feel really sad about where we're heading and how fast we're going at it. And it's just very frustrating. So thanks. I just had to vent a little bit.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, man. And I think a lot of people listening are right there with you. We got another one. We're just going to keep it rolling here. Hello, you're on Outside the Box.
Hey, good morning, Ben. It's Betsy.
Well, hello, Betsy. How are you?
I'm great, except for everything going on in the country, right?
Sure.
But the lie that bothered me the most last night from Trump, of all the lies he told, the lie that bothered me the most was the one he doubled down on, where he said all the families of the fallen soldiers in Iran, sorry, I always mispronounce that.
Yeah, I feel you.
Finish the job. He's using those dead soldiers' families as emotional pawns to get us to all say, oh yeah, we got to finish it now that, that's been disputed. A father of one of those soldiers came forward and said he never told them to finish it. Yet Trump doubles down on that lie to try to use the family's emotions to get us to all say, oh, yeah, well, those people laid down their lives. We got to go finish this now so we can spend trillions more dollars on a war that shouldn't have started in the first place. And yes, it is a war, not a military operation. So that's how I feel about that. But I like you, have some cynicism toward space travel, and I'm not a cynical person. I'm a very optimistic person, and I love that space travel gives people something to be excited about. But you know what? We don't need to do it right now. To me, sending that Artemis up yesterday was like having a family having a kid with terrible cavities and tooth pain saying, sorry, Billy, we don't have the money to fill your cavities because we're taking you guys to Disney World.
Yeah. That's a good comparison.
Cavities. Let's fill the cavities first, okay? Let's fill our kids' cavities before we take them to Disney World. Let's feed the starving people in our country. Let's help people to get affordable housing before we go to Disney World. That's all I have to say on that.
I think that's a spot on assessment. I love that. Oh, I hate that analogy, but I think it's a very accurate analogy. So I appreciate you calling in and sharing your thoughts on the matter. And like I said to Brian, I think you're in the majority the way you're talking here. So, I mean, I appreciate the insight, and it's good to hear from you.
You too. Take care, Ben.
All right. Bye. Yeah, I couldn't say any more. And I'll tell you what, I have 7 or 8 text messages piling up here. So we'll get everybody's thoughts in. Anybody else wants to chime in, 920-281-1150, 920-281-1150. And if you're finding us on Facebook for the first time, download the WHBY app. You can take the show with you anywhere you go. It's also available on any other app where you get your podcasts. Just search Outside the Box with Ben Cominos, and it will pop up. So, Stick around here, guys. We've got plenty more to do here. Loving the interaction, though. We'll keep it rolling. Outside the Box, Ben Cominos, WHBY.
Oh, well, hey there, Political Voices viewers. It's me, Stephanie Miller. Thanks so much for being here and supporting the channel. When you like, comment, or subscribe, it really helps us and our sponsors, and it's the sponsors who make this show possible. So we really appreciate you supporting the people who support us. Stay right here for a quick message from one of those sponsors.
Hi everybody, this is Bob Circosta, and it's time for another Bob's Best Buys. And today we're talking about pain, something we can all relate to, right? Whether it be stiff joints, sore knees, or those everyday aches and pains. Well, now there's a way to help control the pain, and it's called Artrex, a cream that works. From the team at BioVed, Artrex is activated by Ayurveda, an ingredient that's been around for 5,000 years. It focuses on natural wellness, promoting circulation, and helping to fight inflammation. It's plant-based and absorbs fast. And just for listening right now, BioVed has put together a special package you won't find anywhere else. Go to biovedproducts.com/Bob. That's biovedproducts.com/Bob. Isn't it time to feel better, move better, and live better? Now you can with Artrex.
On the line with us, our dear buddy Dean Obeidallah, the host of the Dean Obeidallah Show right here on Sirius XM Progress Channel 127, 6 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday, and the author of one of the finest Substack newsletters. I say that genuinely. I'm not just, trying to puff him up here. The Dean's Report. You can just plug the Dean's Report into a search engine. It'll pop right up, or go to Substack if you can't remember or figure out how to spell Dean's last name. And also Dean Obeidallah over on Blue Sky. Dean, welcome back to the program. You've written some just brilliant stuff recently, and I wanted to bring a couple of them up, if I may. One is, no king saw millions in the streets, so where are the pro-Trump rallies? That's a provocative headline.
Yeah, I mean, Donald Trump last week again at the cabinet meeting, in between being serenaded with a chorus of how amazing you are and all that, again told us he had the highest poll numbers of any president. He has called himself the most popular and the greatest president ever. Last week, Scott Bessent, Secretary of Treasury, said his name is going to be on the $1 bill because of his historic achievements. So my question, Tom, is if he's this unbelievably popular, where are the pro-Trump protests? Where are the pro-Trump rallies? Why are they not filling the streets? And they're nowhere to be found because he is not popular. He is a loser, but corporate media covers him all Trump all the time like he's popular. And that's sort of the thesis of my article. One, he doesn't get those protests because polling's numbers are awful for the guy, awful, the worst they've been. And yet corporate media covers him like he is popular. And I want people to realize we have the power. We outnumber them in the streets. Now we're going to overwhelm them in the ballot box.
What boggles my mind, Dean, are the dual standards, and I think in some regards this goes back to the old work the refs strategy. You know, Rich Bond, when he was head of the GOP back in the I think it was the first the Willie Horton era when George Herbert Walker Bush was running for president. He said, you know, we work the refs. We scream about liberal bias in the media, and so the media goes out of its way to be nice to Republicans. And you know, I mean, they went nuts when Obama wore a tan suit, or when he had a coffee cup in his hand as he saluted the Marine officer as he was getting on the helicopter. I mean, they literally went nuts about this kind of just minor stuff, or when you know, Michelle Obama had some nutrition thoughts for us. And yet, crazy stuff happens in the Trump. I mean, Trump hanging a picture of Putin among the former presidents of the United States. He hung a picture of Putin on the wall of the damn White House. The insider trade. I mean, I don't even know where to begin. But it's like the media all treats it like it's just normal stuff.
Well, I think things have changed, Tom. I mean, there was a time working the refs when the corporate media was a little bit more independent. Now it's no longer independent. Independent media is truly the independent media who are not tied to corporate media. Corporate media, there's that whole bucket of people who don't want to lose access. They won't challenge Trump or talk about the bad poll numbers. Yeah. And the others are owned by the pro-Trump oligarchs. Increasingly, I mean, we look at the Ellisons about closing in now on CNN. CBS News is like Fox on network. That's all it is right now. So we're seeing more and more of that consolidation. Thankfully, we see the rise of independent media at this very time, but I think it's it's no longer working the refs. They own the refs. They own the game. Yeah. Tom, I mean, the fact that we win elections is really a miracle, and that's because people see through all the BS that they're selling, and people see how bad things are. Today, you know, gas prices are over $4 for the first time in about 4 or 5 years, and oil is about to break records of any record except for inflation adjusted. Off the charts. We're going to see where this goes.
Yeah. What's your sense of how this is going to play out? I know you're, you know, being Palestinian ancestry, you're a little more well connected to that region than I am. I'm curious your thoughts on how Trump gets out of this and how this whole thing plays out.
Well, you know, Tom, I summer in the Strait of Hormuz every year, so I'm very well. No, I've never.
I know you're joking. Yeah.
Right. So how this is going to work out, no one knows because Trump doesn't know. There was no plan. Trump point blank said 1 week in, this is going to be like Venezuela. He literally said, it's going to be like Venezuela. It's going to be that easy. That was plan A, B, C, and D. We're going to be done with this in a week. There was no plan. Tactical, yeah, we can blow up anything. We're amazing. Strategic, zero plans. No exit plan, no end game, nothing. How does it end? I think Donald Trump declares victory and just stops bombing and goes home. And, you know, reports in the Wall Street Journal today that he's going to not even care if the Strait of Hormuz is open anymore, which is just a worse scenario. You start a war where the strait is open and you're going to leave it and pull out and surrender when the strait is now closed.
Well, and Netanyahu's not going to stop. Netanyahu is like he's leveling southern Beirut. He's southern Lebanon. He's leveling parts of Iran. I mean, he's not going to stop.
Well, we could stop him anytime we want. We don't want to. With others giving them the ammunition and the intelligence they need, they can't do it. So we want them. I mean, at this point, under Netanyahu, Israel is America's biggest military base. It's like our aircraft carrier in the Mediterranean. That's all it is. It does what we want. If anyone thinks that Trump is not fine with Netanyahu going into southern Lebanon, you're kidding yourself. He cannot do anything, Netanyahu, without Donald Trump, because we could tell them, we're not going to replenish your munitions. You're not going to get intelligence. We're not going to coordinate with you. You're on your own. So everything they're doing is with the approval, the consent, or at the urging of the United States of America under Donald Trump. There's no surprises here. This has long been the case. It's just now so undeniable.
Now, I've thought, in fact, I've said it out loud on this program, that that Netanyahu, who is desperate, I mean, he's got an election coming. He's if he gets out of office, he goes to prison. He's desperate to stay in office, and he needs a war. And this war is apparently very popular in Israel right now. It's helping him. That Netanyahu used to sleep at Jared Kushner's home, 30 years ago, the longtime family friend. That Netanyahu and Kushner basically talked Trump into this. You're suggesting that Trump talked Netanyahu into this?
No, I think that they go to Donald Trump, and Donald Trump has to say yes. If Donald Trump said to Netanyahu, "You're not going to bomb Iran," and Netanyahu says, "Oh, really? What are you going to do about it?" Well, we're not going to give you any more weapons for the planes you bought from us. We're not going to give you the intelligence.
Okay, I get that.
If we could stop it. Yeah. Donald Trump is responsible for the United States military. Netanyahu wanted this, but if I was the head of another country, I would want Americans to die for my country too.
Sure.
That's what Netanyahu did. It's Donald Trump who's responsible, and the GOP that's responsible for what we're going through right now. Netanyahu is a war criminal. The man should be at The Hague for his trial for the genocide in Gaza.
And he's been trying to get American presidents to attack Iran since 1998.
Not a dummy.
And none of the previous American presidents were stupid enough to do it, which brings me to another one. We're talking with Dean Obeidallah, and the author of the Dean's Report, as well as, of course, the great Dean Obeidallah show right here on Sirius XM Progress, channel 127, 6 to 9 p.m. And this is the piece that you wrote about Donald Trump. In fact, I think the headline was "White House is in full cover-up mode of Trump's dementia." Now, you know my theory that his bruise on the back of his hand that shows up every month is because he's getting an infusion of that dementia drug that's given through an infusion in the back of the hand. But I have no proof of that. I assume that you're going well beyond that in your thinking.
Well, I just, again, last night interviewed Dr. John Gartner from Duty to Warn on my show, and I'm going to write a new article about it. I mean, I asked him point blank, is there a cover-up going up? Absolutely. Keep in mind, people in the cabinet in the White House see Donald Trump all day. They only let us see him from little snippets of a time, right? That's all. He's sundowns. They generally don't show him at night. It's rare. Like tonight, we might see him at night because there's an event at the Kennedy Center. So they're not going to show him during the day to us. So there is a cover-up of Donald Trump's dementia going on. Secondly, asked Dr. Gartner point blank. I read him the 25th Amendment, Section 4. Is Donald Trump now unable to discharge his duties as president? And he said, absolutely. The man, so he can be manipulated by Netanyahu or anybody else. So when I say he's got dementia, I'm not a doctor. I rely on doctors, just like when I was a lawyer. When I interviewed Dr. Gardner last night, I told him I should really swear you in. I feel like we're at a courtroom, and now we're going to explain the case to the people about what you're seeing, what you're finding, what he's hearing from his peers in the mental health community. So they're saying, and the point Dr. Gardner makes is, today is the best that you will see Donald Trump. Tomorrow he will degrade a little more, and the day after that. So every day it's going to get worse, and not just life. It's not about Trump. It's about someone who's at his age who has some history of dementia in his family with his dad and his sister and a cousin as well from I heard from Mary Trump's brother. So, look, this is happening in real time. The problem is he's in the White House.
Well, the latest word is that all non-military foreign assistance, more than $30 billion, is now contingent on a promise not to provide, discuss, or even acknowledge abortion care, gender identity, diversity, or equity. You want the money? Disavow your beliefs. For over 50 years, MSI has delivered contraception and safe abortion care in some of the most hostile environments on the planet. Powered by local providers, a resilient social business, and diverse funding that doesn't collapse every time politics swings hard right. Right now, individual donors are what make that resilience possible. Go to msiunitedstates.org. That's M for modern, S for safe, I for informed. msiunitedstates.org, msiunitedstates.org, or text my first name, Stephanie, STEPHANIE, to 511-511. Text Stephanie to 511-511. Go to msiunitedstates.org, or once again, text Stephanie to 511-511 today. Text fees may apply.
It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
So a lot of emails on the big, beautiful nightmare of a bill. And what's interesting to me is there's a thread on the pro side that I find really kind of interesting. And the comments that I've been getting is that I'm poor pimping. And I'm like, no, I'm just pointing out the reality that a lot of poor people are going to suffer because of the cruelty in this Republican legislation. And it's going to filter down to everyone. It's not going to just be centered on the poor and the downtrodden. You know, the anti-Jesus people in their bill. So I find it interesting that there's that. But interestingly enough, no defense of how it's going to make life better, just that they're okay making things worse. And that's kind of a weird spot for me. And here to share some thoughts on the big nightmare bill, I've asked Colin Seberg to come talk with us. Colin is the senior advisor for communications there at the Center for American Progress. They got a new piece out, 10 egregious things you may not know about the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. Colin, thanks for taking time for us.
Thanks for having me back on. It's great to chat with you, Rick.
So this is the weirdest thing for me because look, it's an unpopular bill. You know, the polling is conclusive. Not a lot of people are thrilled with this. Our billionaire friends, they're quite happy with it. But there's this weird kind of defense of, well, you know, those poor people, they should just get jobs. It's a weird kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's important to contextualize the conversation about this bill in response to kind of a clear message that the American people have been sending for many, many years to Washington, D.C., and that is, you know, the cost of living in this country is out of control. You know, people feel more and more like gaining a foothold in the middle class is slipping further and further out of reach, and that the definition of the middle class feels more and more meaningless. And really, this bill just is a direct attack on, you know, working class people in this country by making it more expensive to afford everything from a home to healthcare to groceries to utility bills, you know, really across the board. And it does that all at the same time that it makes, that it gives the very highest earners in this country, the top 1% of taxpayers in this country, $1 trillion more in tax cuts. It's really ridiculous.
It does seem interesting. You know, that whole Robin Hood in reverse thing seems to be playing out right before our very eyes. And interesting, the responses that I've been getting from the supporters have been, you know, that I'm just pimping the poor and just, you know, and instead of going, look, how do we help the poor instead of kicking them? It's a strange dynamic. But I want to get your thoughts because this does really impact, you know, vulnerable populations. The cuts to Medicaid are huge. They're real. The cuts to SNAP are big. They're real. You can't deny that. You can't look away from that, or at least I don't think you should.
No, that's exactly right. You know, Donald Trump and Republicans are now working hard to try to brand this big, beautiful bill as somehow, you know, a working class family's tax break because it does things like offer, you know, no tax on tips or overtime for a couple of years. Yet when you look at that in the context of what they've done in this bill, not only at the fact that there's only a couple percent of workers in this country who even earn tipped income, but when you look at juxtaposing any sort of net gain that they would get from those tax benefits for no tax on tips or no tax on income, they are dwarfed by the cuts to Medicaid, the, you know, allowing the enhanced premium tax credits for if you buy insurance on the ACE marketplaces, the cuts to food assistance that are going to take $150 a month away from families who end up seeing their SNAP benefits cut. Any sort of net gain is so dwarfed by the thousands of dollars more that working class people are going to have to foot the bill for in order to pay for healthcare, in order to pay for food. It's just, you know, their argument just doesn't stand up to scrutiny.
No, I go back to some of the arguments that, you know, some of my red hat friends have made over the years about, you know, you just want to redistribute wealth and you want socialism. And I look at this as socialism for the rich. We're literally taking from the poor and giving to the folks who really don't need it, and massively redistributing wealth from those who work for a living too well those who the hardest day's labor they do is moving money from one pocket to the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really ideological, Rick, right? It's not even partisan. You said it yourself that the polls show that the American people overwhelmingly oppose this thing. It's got near universal opposition among Democrats. It's got about 2/3 of independents who oppose this thing. And it's even got a solid number of Republicans who think that this bill is no good. It doesn't make any sense to people that we could be blowing up the debt by $3.4 trillion and at the same time leaving working class people worse off, making them pay even more for healthcare, for food, for utilities. It just doesn't make any sense to people.
It doesn't, and the thing is, it's one thing to kick the poor, and there are a lot of people who seem to that seems to be their thing. We'll kick those who are down, but this goes after people on Medicare as well, because doesn't this impose some new out-of-pocket costs and limits on some Medicare programs?
Yeah, so the bill actually blocks the implementation of two Medicare rules that help bring premium and out-of-pocket costs down for low-income Medicare enrollees. And so that's going to end up jacking up their costs. The bill also imposes new out-of-pocket cost-sharing requirements. So think co-pays, basically, when you go to the doctor, for people who are earning between 100 and 138% of the federal poverty level. So that's, somebody who's just trying to get by, who's like barely keeping it together, in order to pay their bills. They probably had to take on debt in order to be able to afford the cost of living, given how ridiculously expensive everything is. And now the administration's talking about, this bill as a beautiful bill at the same time that it's making people pay more when they go to the doctor. It's absurd.
Yeah, well, I guess it is a beautiful bill if you're looking at it from the ivory tower. If you're looking down on the unwashed masses and the working poor, this is a great bill. If you're looking up, we're getting trickled on. It's just not in the most positive way possible. But I also want to get your thoughts on, I read something about student loan replacement things and stuff like this. How do they go after, people with student loans in this?
Sure. So the Biden administration, you may remember, implemented the most affordable student loan repayment plan in American history. And the Big Beautiful Bill Act not only blocks that repayment plan, but it also implements a sole repayment plan that forces everybody to enter a standard repayment plan so that they are paying their loans off under a more finite period of time. That ends up actually increasing the amount that people owe in many cases for their monthly student loan bills. And so, let's also remember a lot of the folks who are paying student loans right out of the gate when they graduate from college, and they're already feeling squeezed by, the high cost of rent, the high cost of their electric bill, the cost of transportation, right? It's these same folks who are already feeling squeezed who very well are going to be the ones who have to pay even more for their student loans at a time they don't have extra money to go around.
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not solving problems. We're just making existing problems worse with this while increasing our deficits and ultimately our debt, and while creating a gulf between the haves and have-nots that's even greater than it already is. So with that statement, because I had someone go, you got to make sure what you're saying is factual. Is that a factual statement? I mean, is that, or am I just being hyperbolic when I say the gulf between the haves and the have-nots is going to get worse because of this?
Oh, sure. I mean, you look at what the analysis is from the Congressional Budget Office, the nonpartisan, independent budget analyst chief group on the Hill, and they say that folks in the bottom 40% are actually going to have fewer after-tax resources after this bill than they otherwise would have under current law prior to the Big Beautiful Bill being signed into law. And at the same time, you have those at the top 1% are getting $1 trillion more in tax breaks. It's irrefutable that the folks who are winning under this bill are the ultra wealthy, while working people really are getting screwed.
Yeah, I got to tell you, I'm tired of Trump's winning. I'm tired of what Trump defines as winning, because it's not helping me. It's not helping the working class. And it's certainly not helping the country. And also, it's consolidating power. I mean, one of the big things that's frightening to me is the massive amount of funding that we're putting into basically a secret police force in what ICE has become. And I've taken a beating for my comments that I don't necessarily think having ICE, a bunch of guys walking around, running around with masks on and windbreakers, snatching people up in vans, I don't necessarily think that's a great idea for the country. But the fact that that is now the largest law enforcement arm in the entire country, I think that to me, even more frightening than the Medicaid cuts.
Yeah, I mean, let's think about this, right? We're pumping $30 billion because of this bill into Trump's unaccountable deportation force. You mentioned the masks. A lot of times these agents are walking around in civilian clothing. They're unidentified, right? And and we know that in too many instances, we even see U.S. citizens are being detained without a warrant, without being charged. They're being held by Trump's deportation force, and at the same time, we could be pumping resources into making sure that pensions for law enforcement officers who work in local police departments are being funded. But instead, we're pumping money into Trump's deportation force, who are hunting people down in blueberry fields, who are working at meatpacking plants. And you want to know why the cost of groceries are going up. If it's not Donald Trump's tariffs on bananas or coffee, which just surged to a record high, you can look to the fact that, we see after the raids that occurred a few weeks ago in agriculture fields in California, 2/3 of the workers in those fields didn't show up the next day.
Surprising.
You know what happens when they don't show up? We have fewer crops. You know what happens when we have fewer crops? There are fewer groceries on the shelves. Not only are there fewer groceries on the shelves, but you're paying a whole heck of a lot more for them too.
Yeah, no, and that's predictable. I mean, this is something that was not well thought out, but it's ideological, and it gets them their headlines and makes some people feel good about themselves without realizing that it affects all of us. And again, our immigration problems, I keep coming back to the fact that Congress has failed to do their job for decades. And it's a political question for us as voters because the polling's fairly clear. People want a pathway to citizenship. They want people to be able to come here like our great grandparents and great grandparents did. It's just we've got a Congress that can't seem to get anything done, or won't.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think it is a question of just how much people actually want to solve this challenge. I also think that people want they want a system that people can navigate the process legally, fairly, abide by the rules, and yet, unfortunately, because Congress has failed to get the job done, we are seeing a situation where folks who skip the line basically are being, in some cases, prioritized over folks who are playing by the rules. And that's part of what we need to fix in this country. We need a system that, provides for more legal pathways for legal immigration. And at the same time, we need to, crack down on some of the, tripwires in the system that are making it perverse and actually incentivizing people to not follow the rules because the rules-based system is so out of whack.
Yeah, no, I mean, when my ancestors came here, 100 and some years ago, they just showed up. They didn't wait in line. There was no line. They just showed up. And most of us, that's the reality. I want to go back to your article real quick before I let you go. You said 10 egregious things. We talked about a number of them. What did we miss?
Sure. Yeah, I think a lot of people miss this because the cuts to healthcare are just so severe in this legislation. We're talking about the largest cut to Medicaid in American history. That's, combined with the Affordable Care Act changes, the expiration of the premium tax credits, we're going to see 15 million people lose their health coverage. But we're also going to see Planned Parenthood is defunded under this bill. That is not only going to make it harder for people to get access to the reproductive health care that they need, but it's also going to make it harder to, for hundreds of thousands of women to get access to cancer screenings and preventive care. The bill also includes really dangerous work requirements on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program or food stamps that even target, kids who are aging out of foster care. They target people who have children. They target even the homeless and veterans who had previously, under bipartisan agreements, been carved out from some of these rules. And this bill really goes right after those most vulnerable groups. The other thing that I point out is that, Rick, under this bill, Russ Vought, the same guy who is out there saying that we need less bipartisanship in the appropriations process, the same guy who's, sending these rescissions packages up to Capitol Hill. Congress just gave him basically $100 million blank check under this bill for him to use it how he so pleases. This is an OMB, an Office of Management and Budget, under Russ Vought's direction, that the Government Accountability Office has said multiple times that they have found that this administration is breaking the law by refusing to spend accordingly to the laws that bipartisan majorities in both the House and Senate had passed into law. And so, do you want a government that basically ignores the judiciary branch, ignores the laws that are passed by Congress, and just says, hey, we here at the White House, we think that we're smarter than the rest of you. We think that we have, sole power in the U.S. government, and we're going to do, as we please. And that's basically what Congress just underwrote and turbocharged in giving a blank check for $100 million to Russ Vought. Said, have fun.